This one may be a short story, but I just wanted to share some data with you that that just got published. So the backstory here is when it came to the 2024 election, Kamala Harris got the support, and I want to show you these actual numbers here because the Pew Research Center broke it down by religion. And if you look up here, 2024, look down at the unaffiliateds. You could see, what did atheists say? 83% of atheists at the top of your screen there voted for Kamala Harris. 15% of atheists voted for Donald Trump. What about agnostics? 79% voted for Harris, 18% for Donald Trump. But what about the nothing in particular group? These are the ones who are like, well, I don't have a religious label. I might believe there's something out there, but I don't think I'm an atheist. What about those people? It was 60-38 in favor of Kamala Harris. The point is, there's a big difference between how atheists vote and how like other nuns, N-O-N-E-S, how other nuns vote. And one of the frustrating things every time you see these types of surveys is that sometimes the number of non-religious respondents are so small that they kind of lump us all together. You'll see like, here's what Protestants said, here's what Jewish people said, here's what the nuns said. And it's like, oh, don't lump us together. We're very different on a lot of these issues. Just to mention a couple other ones, 95% of atheists say abortion should be legal in all or most cases. 95%. 94% of agnostics say the same thing. What happens when you just poll nothing in particular? Only 80%, 80. What about acceptance of homosexuality? People who think, yeah, you can be gay. It's fine. 93% of atheists, 95% of agnostics say it's fine. Yeah, those are the numbers. I did not reverse them. I think there's a margin of error thing going on there, but it's in the mid 90s. Only 82% of the nuns basically say the same thing. So I never like it when they say like 29% of America. That's the number we're at right now. 29% of America is a nun. They have no religious affiliation. You may have seen headlines over the past few years that the NONES nuns are the fastest growing religious demographic in America. And you're thinking, wow, if 29% of the country has no religious affiliation and the percentage of white evangelical Christians is going down, maybe that means we could get somewhere politically. Maybe we're going to outnumber them. And the thing is, not quite, because of that 29%, a very small group is atheist and a very small group is agnostic. Most of that 29% are these, I'm wishy-washy, I can't make up my mind about stuff. Anyway, I bring that up because the Pew Research Center recently published this new report about the nuns around the world. And basically they wanted to see, what do American nuns say compared to Swedish nuns and French nuns? Like, are all the nuns the same? And also, what's the difference within a country on all these issues? And some of this was kind of surprising to me. I wanted to share this one with you. Look at this. In Sweden, 52% of adults are nuns, but about half of them believe not in God. Oh, this is about like who's really secular. So they asked the nuns, 52% of adults in Sweden are nuns. Only about half of them, they don't believe in God. They don't believe in an afterlife. They don't believe in the existence of something spiritual beyond this world. So in a sense, even though half the people in Sweden have no religious affiliation, only about half of them actually are secular in the ways you and I might think is secular. Like, yeah, I don't believe in God. I don't believe in supernatural stuff. Okay, where's the US here? Let us keep scrolling. In the US, 29% of the country has no religious affiliation, but only 8% of us don't believe in any supernatural stuff, which seems really low. Like, only 8% of us in the US are right about God and the afterlife and things like that, which puts us way down in the pack compared to other countries. And that is an interesting difference. Look at some of these other places here that are really interesting. In Chile, 33% of the country has no religious affiliation, but only 3% don't believe in the supernatural stuff, which means a whole bunch of people in Chile who are non-religious still believe in something spiritual, which is just an interesting way of looking at this that I'd never considered. Here's another thing that's interesting, another picture here. How do nuns actually identify? I'm going to scroll down to the US here. Again, the total for the US at the top of your screen here adds up to 29 because 29% of the United States is non-religious. But you could see on the far left where it says 5%, only 5% of us are atheists. 6% of us are agnostic. 19% of us are something wishy-washy, none of the above. I believe in something out there. Okay, but it is interesting to look at what those numbers are like elsewhere. Look in Japan, 55% of the country has no religious affiliation, but nearly all of them are like the wishy-washy, I believe in something spiritual people. Is there any country here where the majority of people are atheists? Look at France. 44% of people are non-religious, are nuns, but 21% are atheists. Big difference in how that country goes. Italy, 23% are non-religious, but 11% are atheists. What was the one I wanted to show you here? Greece and Italy are the only two countries where atheists make up a plurality of the nuns. And in Italy, it's not even half. In Greece, it's just above half. So in most of these places, most of their non-religious people believe in something supernatural. And some way more than others. Here's another fascinating result I just want to show you here. In this one, in Brazil and Colombia, let me zoom in here a little bit. What percentage of adults say they believe in God among different subgroups of nuns? So in Brazil, like nearly all of their nuns believe in God, which is interesting. Like Brazil, very spiritual. In Colombia, in Peru, in Mexico, even though all these people say they believe in nothing in particular, most of them believe in God. Look in the US, 62% of our nuns believe in God or some higher power of sorts. Is that, yeah, say they believe in God. 4% of atheists in the US believe in God. 24% of agnostics believe in God. Who are the 4% of atheists who believe in God? I feel like there's a communication problem somewhere along the line. And one last difference between the countries I want to show you right here. This is an interesting question. What percent of religiously unaffiliated adults say that the country's majority's religious teachings have influence on the laws of their country? What percent of people say, yes, the majority religious groups' beliefs have influence on our country and should have influence on our country? In the US, 70% of people say the Bible has influence on the laws of our country. And we're only talking about the nuns here, only about the religiously unaffiliated adults. So 70% of the nuns say, yeah, the Bible has a lot of influence on our laws. Only 20% of the nuns say it should have that influence on our laws, which is a difference of 50%, which is the biggest difference among all these countries that they studied, which is interesting because in the US, first of all, does the Bible influence our laws? Like the answer is yeah. That's what Christian nationalism is all about. And why do so few people say it should have influence on our laws? Because we've seen the impact of Christian nationalism and we don't like it. Whereas in these other countries, the gap gets much, much smaller because they don't have the problems that we're having in the US, where one religion gets to dominate how the rest of us get to live our lives. In the UK, 38% of the nuns say, yeah, religion influences our country. but only 9% say it should. But that's a much smaller gap right there. On the flip side, in like Brazil and Colombia and Peru, where even their nuns believe in God, more people say religion should influence their country's laws, which again is just an interesting difference that I wanted to point out there. I think overall, and I'll post the link for this in the description so you could see all these for yourself. A lot of this is not surprising to those of us who have followed these surveys over the years, but I think it still shows how the US nuns, we are not a cohesive block of secular thinkers. We're a very fragmented coalition, many of whom still cling to spiritual or supernatural ideas. And so I think that's worth keeping in mind whenever you see headlines suggesting there is a surge of secularism. Like the reality is only a small fraction of us in the US, 8% of us, are truly non-religious in a consistent, rational sense. And that matters because it affects how much influence we have when it comes to shaping policy and fighting Christian nationalism and advocating for science and reason and human rights. Basically, just because there are a lot of nuns in your country does not mean you are necessarily a secular country. I mean, it's, for example, and we heard this a lot this week, it is a lot harder to convince people that thoughts and prayers don't make for good public policy when even 55% of nuns say they pray, which is what this survey found. So for atheists, I think this data, it is a challenge. It's also a call to action because it shows that if you want to live in a truly secular society, it's going to require a lot more than just trying to up the number of people who check other on a survey when you are asked about your religion. It requires outreach and education and visible representation of atheists in the public eye so that atheism is understood and respected and appealing to people. Like, seriously, Sydney Sweeney, come out as an atheist. It would help us all. I don't know, nuns in general, at least in the US, we are generally aligned on reproductive rights and LGBTQ acceptance and church state separation, generally speaking. But there are a lot of us who believe in evidence-free nonsense. And that means, I mean, if nuns are like, yeah, I believe in prayer, it makes me wonder what other irrational things you might believe in too. All right, I will stop there with this one. What other questions we got here? Was this on Pew? Yes, this is a Pew Research Center survey, and I'll have the link down below in the description. Still confused. Atheists who believe in God? Yeah, man, I don't know. I don't know why. It's always weird when they're like, I'm an atheist, but I believe in heaven. It's like, who are you? Why are you? I don't know. To say only 8% have it right is like Christians saying they're the only ones who have it right. I know, and I've gotten that criticism before. It's very arrogant of atheists to say they know it. The difference is I am right. Thanks for that donation. In Australia, a lot of my spiritual but not religious friends are getting sucked in by right-wing propaganda. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of spiritual but not religious people, even in the US, who will tell you like they take their astrological sign seriously, even though that's all bullshit. Or they, again, everyone has their supernatural, irrational blind spots, but the fear, and this is the thing you are pointing out that I'm worried about, if you are willing to be irrational in certain aspects when it comes to religion, when you're spiritual but not religious, my worry is that it doesn't take much to lure you into something else that is irrational, like right-wing propaganda. That's why you see a lot of younger people who might have been like new atheists back in the day. You see them believing a lot of right-wing bullshit because they're eager to belong to something. They want to believe in this stuff, and they're not really rational at the core.